Welcome to Building Great People, the podcast where we explore how leaders in business and community are shaping the future by investing in the people who make it all happen. Let's get started. Welcome back, everyone, to Building Great People. I'm 𝗟𝗲𝗱𝗃𝗃, your host, and today I have the pleasure of welcoming Reagan Prather. She is an unbelievable human, has been in many different fields of leadership through her career, and we're going to talk about a few of those today, but I'd love to just kick it off with an introduction. Tell us a little bit about you and everything you've been into recently.
Okay, well, my name is Reagan Prather, as he said, and I'm an adjunct faculty at Austin Peay. I'm teaching in the HHP department. I love the classes I've been able to teach the last couple of semesters revolve completely around coaching. I am actually in the process of furthering my postgraduate coaching education. I'm in a program through the College of Executive Coaching to kind of expand my knowledge and improve my service to my clients. I am in my third year with the Rossview High School football team, working with them on that mental side of performance and leadership with our youth. And I just really enjoy that. I've kind of been stepping in to through that work that I'm doing with the team, kind of learning how to connect an older generation. I'm not sure how this is going to really come out with the younger generation, and to get the best out of both sides really is definitely something I feel like I have accidentally happened upon maybe, but I enjoy, and I think I'm pretty good at it. So, I like doing that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I want to rewind just even a little bit further. I think not too long ago, but your kind of probably first introductions to leadership and what that looked like may have been when you played sports, just kind of reading through your bio.
Oh,
so tell us a little bit about like your early introductions to leadership, your experiences, playing sports even.
Yeah. So I was like a lot of kids. I played all the sports that we could play as young kids. And we were very fortunate. I mean, I did dance for a very short time as a very small child. Got out of that pretty quick and went into soccer, volleyball, mostly soccer. And I think it was just a kind of a natural, I don't ever feel like when we were kids that our coaches didn't discuss leadership. We didn't talk about that. It was just kind of something that happened organically, and some people were good at it and some people weren't. And I'm not sure that I was really great at it all the time, but I tended to, on most of the teams that I played with or on, I tended to be in some sort of leadership role in those, whether given or just, again, organically.
Yeah. I have that shared kind of experience. I didn't know what it was called back then, but you get plugged in and it was definitely a catalyst, I think, moment, looking back of like, oh, I feel natural in this. I enjoy working in a system and encouraging others to be in that system of success. Also high achieving, I think that's a critical function to, good teams at least. Right. And it kind of carries on, but you've made almost a career out of coaching in many ways. So coming from being the player to the coach, I'm sure was an interesting journey, but a couple really just notable things to me. Yes, you're working on the executive coaching, things, and you're already offering that support to a lot of people. But the owner of CrossFit Clarksville and starting that, and that journey in itself as a business owner, but also a coach in many ways. Sure. And then, I'm sure you've coached various teams along the way, as long as assisting, in other capacities. But, what was that transition from player to coach? When was that moment and how did that unfold?
When I talk to people or when I'm maybe interviewing for a job or a client is interviewing me, I will say things like, I've kind of been a coach or a teacher for most of my adult life, in some form or fashion. I went from high school sports and things into college, into organizations that I was involved in, leadership positions there. Then first job out of college, I went to Motorola, and I was computer science. My parents were very sad about how far I've fallen from that. I can barely turn my computer on now. But I went into Motorola and quickly learned that the technical aspect wasn't something I was going to be great at. But I transitioned. They started using me as a kind of a liaison between what we called back then eggheads, the really technical guys, and managers and leaders of organizations, of how those systems work, right? So I got to travel and do lots of cool stuff with that job. And then, I don't know, I mean, I feel like it was a natural progression, you know, going from athlete or athlete leader is what I'll call when I work with youth today, and it just kind of keeps going. I think that's why I think I have a passion for developing our young people today, because it does not come easy for a lot of them. I don't know. I think about this all the time. I think about, like I said, I don't feel like this was something our coaches, teachers really said, okay, hey, Reagan, Rylan, I need you to be a leader today. I need you to really step up and do this. We just kind of did those things. And today it's very, very difficult to get kids to really step up and step out of their bubble and their zone, which then creates, you know, okay, this is sport. And I tell them all the time, like, you're hanging your cleats up someday. Yeah. But we need to be thinking about how this is going to relate for your future. And if you don't develop these skills, these soft skills of communication, looking someone in the eye, being willing to step outside your comfort zone, do hard things, right? Then you won't be able to do those things later either. So I don't know. I feel really drawn to work in that capacity, but I can't put my finger on what it is that has kind of left this void in this area with our young people. Yeah. And I know you see it too.
Absolutely.
Coming when you're hiring and things, it's like we've got to bridge the gap. Yeah. Between the sage and the wise and the experienced or veterans, I've heard it said, and the rookies or the younger generation, so that because that's to the benefit of any team, whether it's a sports team, a business team, it doesn't matter, and the individual themselves as well. Yeah. Right? If we can create those connections for them.
Yeah, so much there we can unpack.
Yeah, yeah. I know I said a lot.
You did, but it was great. You know, I wrote down a few notes while we were talking through that, and you know, a few of the things that stand out to me. You know, being a young athlete when I was never the best at whatever sport I played, and I primarily played soccer as well. But what I did know is I could outwork you, and I think for me, being put in positions with coaches that were hard. You know, you probably grew up a little bit more with the old school coaching, where you know you got uncomfortable pretty quick because they're going to work you until you bled, until you threw up. Like, you know, it was what we call it old school versus new school. That was the mentality at that time. You know, outwork people. And then, you know, as I coached for a few years in middle school, a group of kids from 6th grade all the way up to senior year, and a remarkable experience looking back. In the moments, you don't necessarily realize, you know, am I even having an impact? Yes. Does this matter? Yes. And thankfully, I've kind of gotten a few times some reassurance of like, well, maybe I did, you know, make one small impact here and things. But that journey alone also helped me grow as an individual. So coming from a player to and being in leadership roles, being captain of that soccer team. But one of the things that stands out for me for leaders kind of coming into the workforce, what we see a lot of times is if you're a leader in a sports team, typically you're willing to take instruction. You're coachable. You're not necessarily the best player on the team. A lot of times the teams that I've worked with or been a part of, it's not the best. It's someone who can receive instructions, that can encourage your team, that gets more excited about the team achieving big things than their own individualistic self. And so when we pivot that and we say, hey, look, yes, you hang up your cleats at some point. I still struggle to do that now. Once you hang that up, though, and you move into this workforce, what does that look like? Because I think there's a gap there for athletes a lot of times. And so before we kind of even get further into some of that, I'd love to know, what is your opinion of that athlete that may be out there listening, saying like, man, I'm struggling. I don't know how to take what I've learned, what I've gone through, and make, that my new world of, work, life, relationships, family. How does that translate?
I mean, I have no artistic bone in my body, right? So everything I ever did was sport. It was physical and it was sport. And so I am very passionate about the importance of athletics and sports for young kids. Young, youth, whatever, all of them. I think that the lessons that we learn in sports are lifelong lessons. We learn how to resolve conflict. We learn how to take direction. We learn how to give direction. We learn how to not be the best, right? We learn how to fail. We learn how to succeed. I don't feel like there is anything else that we can give our kids to teach the lessons that sport participation teaches them. And I think I would tell those athletes that are maybe having a transition from player to, even going to college it was a change for me because I was still playing, but I wasn't playing at the same level. I mean, it was different. It was the 90s and there weren't a lot of women's soccer teams around. And the ones that wanted me, I did not want to go there. So I shifted to like a club, more fun. I tell the classes, I just was telling my kids the other day, I played the best soccer maybe of my life when I took the stress and the pressure off and just was playing for fun. I was still getting to travel, but it was fun again. And those relationships that I was building, I mean, I still have connections through that. I mean, that was almost 20 years ago. So I would tell them that the lessons are there. You just have to maybe self-reflect and look back. What came from that? Because, I don't think in the moment, that you're learning these valuable skills and life lessons. But now I look at my own kids and I think about myself and my husband, and he played collegiately, but it's just, I don't think it is replicated anywhere else. Maybe I'm wrong. Again, I wasn't in the arts, so I didn't play instruments. I wasn't talented in that way at all. So I don't know if those same lessons can be there, but sports is it's just such a developer of character and grit and determination and perseverance and all those things that I think we find our young people lacking. Sometimes today.
Yeah. Amen. I took the path this past year, and my son has been playing soccer, my 7-year-old, and was kind of maybe not as happy with some of the instruction he was getting, and swore I would never coach my kids' sports teams. And I can't tell you for how many years I said that. My father says, never swear you're not going to do something, because I always end up doing it. So still haven't learned that lesson at 37, but I did. I signed up to coach his team this year, and it's just a rec program. So it's, it is more about having fun getting them, and he's young. And that's a big pillar of this team is I want you to engage in soccer in a way that you become a lifelong lover of that sport, right? And not in one that's of animosity. But one of the things I realized very quickly is, how we as parents influence our children. And so this isn't a podcast to parents, but this is a raw podcast that talks about leadership. And for me, when I'm emulating, what are those things that I want my kids to have as traits? And oftentimes, especially with having very young kids, I don't see that yet, right? Like I'm just starting to see glimpses of like, oh, maybe that did like work out, or maybe you did take that to heart, right?
Right.
And one of the proudest moments I've had in this little bit longer story than I was planning, but my son played a game, his first game, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he's not the best soccer player. When we were playing in the club program, he's not what I would say has that dog in him yet. He just doesn't have that fierceness. But I know he likes soccer because dad likes soccer. And so I've struggled with that, but he got out on that field and immediately became the leader on the field and was directing people and encouraging people and motivating them. And not to speak badly about any of the other players on this team, because that's not what this is about. But he lit up out of that desire to do that without being a bully, a boss, or intimidation, or any direction for me. I had zero comments. In fact, I'm harder on him, like most coaches who do coach their children. But it was an affirmation to me like, oh, I am putting him in difficult situations and I'm not backing down, and I'm not saying take the easy road. I'm encouraging him to be courageous, to step out of that comfort zone, to fail, right? And when we fail, we get back up and we go do it again. So he played basketball and he did really bad in the game. And he asked him in the car, this was last spring, I asked him, I said, hey, how did you think you did? And I was clearly very frustrated. And my wife was on edge a little bit like, oh, where's this going to go? And he goes, oh, I think I did great. You know, just happy drinking his juice and, you know, eating his snack after the game, which is crazy to me. We didn't get all that. And I was like, buddy, I hate to tell you, you didn't do good at all. And I think that was a hard lesson for him. But what he did when he got home was grab the basketball, went outside and shot for the next hour and asked me, what drills can I do to get better? And an immediate improvement when you start doing those things, right? But just the willingness to do that. And so I said those long stories, not because I think my son's some gift of God. He is a gift of God to me, or from God to me. But I say that because I think we are seeing a lot of children that aren't getting that from their parents in a way that it's like part of this generational issue is we do need to take these legacy, values and figure out how to embed them. And that's not the school's responsibility. And it's not always the coach's responsibility, but sometimes the coach is what's left to get to that child and help them see their potential, right? Because that's what we do a lot of times. So, yeah.
You know, so I'm about to geek out. This semester I'm coaching youth sports, and it is super cool because what I do in my other life with mental performance is really connected to youth sports and adolescent sports. And the psychologists and the community classifies adolescents between the ages of, I think, 8 and 14, I think is what it is. And so that's youth sport, right? And I'm really hoping to challenge. I have this great book that I don't think I brought it, but the book I'm going through the class with, right, that I based the class off of, is phenomenal. I wish I had it. I can't remember off the top of my head. Yeah,
when we're done,
I'll definitely do. Yeah, I'll get it to you. But it is really focused on the softer side, if you will, of coaching, right? Chapter 3, just went over it. It's all about what does a coach focus on? And what a coach focuses on will determine whether they have a successful team. But two things it's counterintuitive, because if you focus on winning or losing, you probably will not be very successful. If you focus on nurturing the roots, right? Developing the processes. And by way of that, you're teaching the kid, the athlete, the participant, even, because at that point, some of these kids, they're there because their parents are making them be there,
right.
or, you know, they don't really want to be there. They want to be dancing or playing an instrument, but they're out there on the field or court. And it's like, I asked my students as we were going through this and lots of questions, and I said, if it's a situation of coaching, how do we get our coaches to understand this? Because the studies, this is an opinion. The studies are there. The more you focus on winning, usually the less you will win. Yeah. And the less successful those kids will be in the future with the skills we're talking about are so lacking, right? Because they won't do anything that they're fearful of. Most coaches don't think that all they do is focus on winning. Most coaches, and I would say a majority of coaches are doing something that they believe to be right and good and helpful, right? But what happens is the actions don't always follow what. Don't worry about winning, kids. But as soon as you screw up, I'm yanking you out. That's and right. You're sitting on the bench. Yep. Well, now what you did is twofold. That kid's terrified, embarrassed, doesn't want to do it again. But everybody else, all the other kids are the same. Fear. They're like, well, don't put me in. I don't want to be in there because I don't want to get yelled at when I mess up. So we can talk about how we're not going to, don't worry about winning, have fun, right? But our actions as coaches or the leaders of these young people, it speaks. And kids are not dumb. You know, they see that. And so we have to, I asked the kids, I think I was getting around to this. I said, so how do we get coaches? How do we bring them along? If we know this is true, how do we bring them along? She goes, well, I think they should be in this class. And I was like, yes, that's what I'm talking about. Because it's just, it is not rocket science. Yeah. But we're not doing it on a large scale to help usher our kids. And I think also, I'm almost 50. When I was playing sports, our parents didn't butt in. I never forget Fred, good old Fred. He was from, I think, Ecuador. He would curse us up one side and down the other. I wasn't even allowed to say butt as a kid, like hiney. Okay, I wasn't even allowed. My mom grounded me one time for that. So that wasn't something that my parents would have approved of, but they recognized on some level the value of being put in different situations, not living in a bubble. And he was hard, but he was fair. Yeah. And he showed us that he cared about us in other ways. And that's where I have so many thoughts in my head that are not, I mean, I'm getting around to it, I promise. I feel like everything is about relationship. Yeah. So the cussing us up one side and down the other you'd be like, well, that's not building relationship or, camaraderie or confidence in a kid. However, there were other ways that Fred showed us that he did care, that he did love us. We were a very successful team for whatever he did. And I think that somewhere along the way, the people who are coaching, we're just losing sight sometimes of just because it was done that way back then does not mean that works today. Yeah. We are dealing with a different, they're not different in a bad way, just different kids. They're just different. They're not used to having face-to-face communication a lot. It is very difficult to get a kid to give someone direction. So, and I don't know if we've lost that because the relationship between coach and athlete, at least what I see when I work with them, it's not there's not as much of a relationship. Is that because parents don't want it? Is that because coaches are afraid? There's always, don't want to get in trouble. I don't want somebody to have their parent mad at me, get in legal trouble for, saying the wrong thing, whatever it is. It's kind of been broken. And I don't know I don't know how you fix that for the benefit of the kid, right? because we're growing. Again, if I believe what I said, nothing develops our young people like sports and the competition and all the soft skills that we can learn from it, then we have to figure out how to make that a positive experience and not something that they are like, I never want to do this again. The overwhelming majority of kids today quit sports by the time they're 13.
Yep. They're burnt out.
Is it, are we overdoing it with sports specialization and forcing them to play year round in the same thing? Or is the environment just so crappy that whether it's the tolerating bullies and mean kids and a bad attitude and even celebrating those kids if they're the best, right? I'm like you. I was never the best, but I was always very valuable for other reasons, right? So getting these kids to understand you have value. Everyone has value. If you're in this room right now and I'm talking to you, you have value. And it's really hard because they're in a me. What are my stats? What are my, what did it look like on social media when I posted this thing, even though maybe it was the one thing that I did good that entire game. It's really difficult to get them to understand that there is value outside of your performance on any particular day. Right. Just, I don't know.
We're seeing that translation into the workforce, right? Like that's kind of some of the things that I observe at my position and what I see across the corporate land is those bad habits are coming across, and it's leading to a lot of tough situations for, I think, business owners, the corporate environment, your localized department, right, who's trying to build their team. And I go back to, fear in making a mistake. You said that actually a couple times, maybe not specifically, but this environment as a player, when you make a mistake, you get ripped out of a game, right? And I can remember making mistakes and the coach saying, no, now you're going to go fix the mistake, right? Like you missed the ball, then you better go hustle and go get that ball back. And we're not talking about long-term performance, right? Because, teams at a competitive nature are set up to have people that are going to win, right? But as you develop from a player to whether it's a coach or not, but to a player of life, right? And that's of relationships with your family, relationships with your spouse or your significant other, to your kids, to your work that you do, whether you own a business or working for another person, whatever that looks like, that fear of mistake can really be a driving factor of how you interact with those relationships and those different positions. And we see that with toxic management sometimes, this idea, I'm going to write you up every time you make a mistake. Or now it becomes a fear tactic that I'm so scared to make a mistake that I have lack of action, lack of decision making.
Yes.
Or sometimes even worse, a mixture of both, where I cover up my mistakes because I am scared that I'm going to get in trouble, and I'm trying to be a perfectionist and whatever that is. And I personally, and it has taken me a while to see healthy coaches, healthy environments of sports, not necessarily competitive. It doesn't have to be the super competitive travel club programs, but as an avenue to see that mistakes are what life is about. And it's really the growth after the mistake that is where we form who we are. That's our character in many ways, right?
I say this to my teams and coaches and all. We learn almost nothing when we win. Because when you win, do you go back and AAR it? After action review? Sorry, military term. Do you go back and reflect on all the things that went amazing? Usually no. Maybe some people do. But when things go really well, you're like, sweet, high five, let's go have dinner. Right? But when you lose, you're like, how do we win? How do we fix that? What happened? What went wrong? How can we improve upon whatever it was that we didn't do right that led us to be unsuccessful in this area. And again, sport to me, it's like directly connected to everything else you do in life.
Absolutely.
So it's can be a soccer team, but it can be, you know, your executive team. It can be a director's, middle management, whatever. It's directly related, right? Yeah. And so we learn almost nothing when we win. Yeah. But we learn so much when we lose or we fail, because we have to, if we care, we have to, it's just, we have to go figure out, well, why didn't that work? I thought this was a really great idea. I was sure it was going to be great. It didn't work out. So why didn't it work out? Yeah. You know, was it people? Was it processes? Was it a fluke? Sometimes things just don't go your way. Yep. And you have to be willing to accept that too. As well, it's still a good plan, but it just, you know, the perfect storm occurred and things didn't go our way. Yep. And I feel like that is just such an important thing to get our young people. You can't stay in the comfort zone. You can't stay there. Nothing excellent ever happens inside your comfort zone. You'll never reach your truest potential if you stay there. But if you take a risk, well, let me rephrase that. We have to teach people that it's okay to take a risk and potentially fail. Otherwise, we have adults who are completely paralyzed, can't make decisions, can't lead a family, can't be successful in the workplace. You know, it goes down the line, either direction. And so we have to teach it though. Yeah. And our actions speak louder than our words. An assignment my kids are doing tomorrow is they have to identify 6 characteristics of a coach who focuses too much on winning. Because we talk about it, but what does it look like? Okay, unless I say to you, we're going to win, we're going to win, we're going to win. You know, a lot of coaches don't do that. Yeah. But they do scream and yell at the ref when there's a bad call. Well, what does that tell you? Well, you really, really want to win this game. Yep. And again, I'm a competitive person. I want to win. Every time I don't do anything to lose. I'm not trying to not succeed. Yeah. But I understand enough to know that I'm going to fail. Things aren't going to be exactly as I want them to sometimes. But if I keep trying, I'm going to land somewhere near where I want to be, right? Yeah. And we have to ingrain that in our young people. Yeah, it's there's a reason it's the saying is pursuit of excellence. Yeah, yeah, because you just have to keep going. Exactly, that's right. You have to keep trying. It's a journey. Well, we've talked a little bit about, you know, maybe the players, which, you know, some ways we can just translate up to, you know, employees or you know, people just living their daily life. We've talked a little bit about parents, right? And I would say those are also in the workforce. That's your coworkers in some ways, right? Like what's the environment you're surrounding yourself with? But I'd like to pivot a little bit and talk a little bit about coaches. And you said that a couple statements, you know, the coaches' pursuit of winning over maybe the fundamentals, right? And I relate back to, you know, again, my time as coaching. I coached a smaller private school here in town, and you just didn't have a lot of resources, not money, but players. There's just so many players that are available to that. And one of the things I quickly learned being a super competitive person is the fundamentals was what was going to carry this team. It had nothing to do with any star. I had maybe one, but one doesn't carry on a soccer team, can't carry a team. And at that point, then I have to teach these are the right decisions no matter what. And we're going to go out and we're going to get our butt kicked, but we're going to do the right thing. And I care way more about that. And if we can continue to do that, and coming from being even an athlete, you brought up the ref situation, being an athlete that was notorious for arguing with refs more than I should, with a bad reputation about it, pivoting to a coach, just knowing that's not how this team is going to behave. We will not do that. But those fundamental things became more than just about the game. It became about
who the young men that I was developing, what values did I want them to take on. So then I flash forward to, a young career-minded person who is kind of working their way through life and that journey of where do I work? What am I doing? What is my value in what I do? But quickly realizing there's no perfect team out there. And where we're at now, at 𝗂𝗄𝗎's one of the best places I could ever imagine being. This is, my dream scenario. We have a lot of high achievers that don't necessarily have the skills coming into it. And that's one of the beautiful things that I think we've crafted intentionally is we have said we're leaning into the coaches, our directors, our leadership to say, I just want the person who can be coached because I can make them great in whatever they do. And the ones that aren't, we may not be that place for them. If you're a star, we don't really have those here. We have a lot of stars, and there's no one that we consider the brightest star, right? And so it's just very interesting, I think, that coach pivot in talking to them. And I'd love to hear what would be your words to that individual who, whether they're at a sports team or a position in life where they're helping someone, or a manager or a director who's saying, I have this team and I don't know what to do with it. And I want to win, because reality is we all want to win. It feels good. What would you encourage them with?
I feel like I say this a lot. If someone doesn't think that you give a rip about them, care about them, then you will never be able to get the best out of them. And a lot of times the issue is, well, I've told them, I've tried to be helpful, I've tried to be kind, if a person isn't giving you what you believe to be their best, they probably don't think that you care about anything outside of their performance in this position. And again, it comes down to relationship, because the way I say it to a team, a sports team, you will always find it within you to do more, one more run, a little bit more effort. You find it within you to do a little bit more if you care about the guy standing next to you. And if you think that they care about you, well, now it's double trouble. Now it's on, right? And so it comes down to relationship. But as leaders and coaches, we have to be willing to say, maybe I haven't. I feel like I've communicated to them, but perception is reality. So if you are not getting what you think you should be getting from someone, maybe you need to adjust your messaging, change the way you're trying to show that you do care. Everybody, I know that's kind of it is a cliche, perception is reality. I use it all the time. Talk to my kids about it. Like, well, I didn't say that. That's not what I meant. Doesn't matter.
That's all right.
Doesn't matter what you meant. You injured her, him, them. You don't get to tell them when to be okay with it. And so either, again, adjust your messaging, ask, I think that a lot of times what I've learned recently with my kids is just being like, listen, I'm going to say something to you. I'm not sure you're going to like it, but I really feel like I need to say this, and I'd like to have a conversation with you about it. I think that this is a new thing for me, okay? Because I don't like to have conflict. I like to, keep things copacetic, but I've realized pretending, it doesn't help, and again, I think, I don't know, I say this with the sport coaches I'm working with now. They're like, I've told him 10 times, I don't know why he's doing that still. I don't know. Obviously he didn't get it.
Yeah.
Try another way because it's not working.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how angry you get that you've tried and told and said and did, they're not receiving it.
Yeah.
So if you want to make a change, you got to figure out how to speak to them in a language they understand. I mean, it's kind of like the 5 love languages, right? I guess you could use that, but maybe we should write that book, Rylan. Yeah. But for leadership, right? How do people receive things?
Yeah.
And because the way they perceive it is what matters, not the way necessarily you think you've delivered it.
Yeah.
Right.
I love that. That's such a good place, I think, to end today's conversation, even though I think we could go probably another hour, if not longer. Reagan, it has been an absolute joy. And I hope you'd be willing to come back and talk even a little more about this.
I do. I love coming. I love hanging out with you guys. It's always a pleasure for me.
Yeah. Likewise. You're so right. Perception is reality. And I say this a lot in this podcast and the people that I get to work with. And the biggest reflection for me of a good leader is actually what you look like when you stand in the mirror and what you're willing to acknowledge is there or not there. And that self-reflection to me, that's where growth happens, right? Yeah. That's where you can lean in and say, I don't like that part. But a lot of that comes from perception, right? Like, what do people think of me? So that's such a great landing spot for us today. I would love for you to say how people could maybe reach you if possible, if they'd like to connect. I know you do some coaching, and I think it's so important to have them be able to connect. Obviously, if you're in school at Austin Peay or interested in coming back for just one class, I think it would be a wonderful class for them to also join. So
yeah, absolutely. So I am I'm in the HHP department Monday, Wednesday, Friday at Austin Peay. But you can also reach me on Instagram, Reagan D. Prather, LinkedIn, Reagan Prather. I love to have conversations. I love I'm stepping into learning more and kind of tweaking my craft as far as coaching, but also I love training large groups and things like that. So reach out anytime. Yeah. Would love it.
We'll put that in the footnotes as well. Again, this is Building Great People, where we get real and raw with life. And so thankful if you're out there listening, I'd encourage you to keep pushing in and leaning in and doing the things that are hard and uncomfortable. If you're young and you're playing a sport, listen a little bit more to your coach maybe, or have your coach reach out to Reagan. And get some help there. But thank you again. We'll see you next time. That's it for today's episode of Building Great People. Every leader has the power to shape the future by investing in and developing the people they lead. Keep leading with purpose, growing with heart, and empowering those around you. Strive to be the leader who elevates others, and together we'll continue building a better world. See you next time.